I'm going to take the raised hand as a sign of yes. Thanks, Chloe. Hey everyone, we're going to get started. Just before we do, I'll let you know this will be recorded, so we'll start that now. Oh wait.
Yeah, I'll start it.
Okay, awesome. Let's see. Now something's happened with my screen. Is it still sharing?
I can see you.
Okay, let me see. All right, so we're going to get started. This will be recorded, so you will have access to the slides and the presentation recording after this. My name is Grace. I will be chatting to you today about balancing uni and life. So welcome. It's nice to see so many numbers here. All right, I'm just going to get started. If that doesn't work. Cool, awesome. All right, so first of all, welcome to Flinders. I don't know where you guys are joining us from, but whether you're coming straight from high school or international students from overseas, or whether you're coming back to uni as a mature age student, or maybe from one of our enabling programs in foundations or the military academic pathway, welcome. It's great to have you guys here, sort of in spirit at least, if not face to face at this moment. So this is the final orientation session for this week that we're running on balancing uni and life, which when we hear from students, this seems to be the major concern that they have about starting uni, which is about balancing their studies with everything else that's going on in their lives. So it's really great that you could join us for this session. Before we get into it, though, I just want to acknowledge that I'm presenting today on Ghanaland on the beautiful Flinders campus. Some of you might be on campus, some of you might be elsewhere, but I just want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land. This is land that was never ceded, so we're very lucky to be able to share it and teach from it today. And I want to pay my respect to the elders past, present, and emerging. When you do get on campus, hopefully some of you have had that opportunity already. I'm sure you'll see a lot of art installations and kind of things around campus that kind of pay respect to the Ghana people. So, so probably all of you are coming from very different places. I imagine some of you are coming straight from year 12. Well done on doing that in COVID times. And, you know, maybe you've been in the workforce for many years and you've come back to uni to study. Maybe you are joining us offshore, overseas, wherever it is that you're coming from. I just want to say welcome. Starting uni, wherever you started, is a very big leap. It's quite a big transition, and it can be a shock to the system for a lot of people. You might find some aspects really seamless and other ones very hard to adjust to. So we're going to talk today about some tips and strategies for how you can make that transition easily. And please, at any stage, if you have a question, throw it in the chat. I've got Mel here moderating, so if there is a question that needs answering, she will let me know.
There is someone that has had their hands up.
So yeah?
If they wanted to ask something.
Yeah, if you have your hands up and you want to ask a question, feel free to either throw on your mic or throw it in the chat, and hopefully I will have the answer for you, and if not, I can help put you in the right direction. But yeah, this is going to be fairly conversational today, so I have some kind of things that I want to give you some advice on, but mostly this is about you guys. So if you have questions, I will try and answer them. And also, if you can help each other out, if you have tips or strategies for how you go about balancing uni and life. Oh, okay. Apparently the chat's turned off, so we will troubleshoot that. But yeah, if you can problem solve each other's questions, that's great as well, because you guys are each other's co-students, and it can be really good to kind of know that you're not alone and to share your tips to each other. So while we work on fixing the chat, in the meantime, I'll get started with talking about the transition to uni, which can be quite a roller coaster. You've made it here, you've made it online, which is a huge first step, honestly. Like sometimes it's really hard to navigate flow, so fantastic, well done on that. You're already off to a great start. You may have found your way to campus, which is great. It's been a little bit more of a subdued O week this week because of COVID, but hopefully you're starting to feel a bit of the community vibe at Flinders, and ideally as the year goes on, you'll get more of that as well. It sucks that you haven't had the full O week experience, but we're going to do our best to make sure that you guys feel welcome here. So you might be feeling quite on top of things right now. You might be really excited to start your studies next week. If you are like me when I did my undergrad here, you'll get to week 1 and then you'll be like, there is a lot of information here. I don't know when things are due. I don't know how to start. I feel like totally overwhelmed. I don't even know where my classes are. That is totally normal. I can guarantee that probably nearly every student is feeling that way. There is a lot of support here at Flinders for you guys, so just be patient with yourselves, be patient with the process. It is uncomfortable starting something new, but it does get easier. Okay, so first let's talk about due date tactics. So we're going to look at this today, due date tactics, maximizing your time, how you approach assignments, and then kind of more generally what uni is like, and that's where I hope that we can kind of have more of a chat. But due date tactics is when we're going to take a whole of semester view. So we're going to use your due dates to backward map your time and assignments. When we talk about maximizing your time, we're going to look at your weekly schedule, how you can kind of balance the workload of, your contact hours at uni, as well as your independent study, as well as every other single thing you've got going on in your life, which is probably a lot. And then tackling assignments. So going to that very small specific point of view where we think about, okay, you've been given an essay, it's overwhelming, or it seems just, I don't know, like a lot of effort. How do we make that more manageable for you? So due date tactics. One thing you cannot avoid at uni, alas, is due dates. And you might notice that once you get all the information from your topics, these due dates tend to cluster at the same time. This is unfortunate, but it is also common. So we need to use those due dates that you get given in week 1 to work out how to plan ahead. That usually means time management, which is not the most interesting thing to talk about necessarily, but it is going to be your best friend as you move forward. And time management is related to a lot of complex kind of habits or patterns of behavior. And some of these might sound familiar to you if you procrastinate, if you have low motivation for study, if you are, I'm someone who overcommits, so I'll say yes to nearly everything and then realize that I'm burning out quite quickly. If you're a perfectionist, or if you just want to avoid stress. So if any of those sound like they resonate with you, then that's something to be really aware of as you go into your studies as well. They are normal. I'm usually negotiating one of those or all of them every single day anyway. So you will take these forward with you beyond uni, but here is where we can actually focus on how we manage them to your benefit. So to give you a bit of a sense of what the uni semester is like, if you're coming to Flinders for the first time or it's just been a long time, you don't really know how the semester works. Most courses are based on 13 to 14 week semesters, unless you're in something like nursing, in which case probably you've already started your topics quite early on in maybe January. But generally, any other course is kind of, on that 13 to 14 week semester. So starting from next week and then moving forward. We have mid-semester breaks in April and September. They're usually about 2 weeks. They are a bit misleading because they are not breaks, actually. They tend to be when your assessments are due or when you're preparing your assessments, which are due after the mid-semester break. So you'll often find that you get to that point, it doesn't really feel like a rest. It's more like you just don't have to go to uni or attend classes, and so you can actually focus on your studies. The first weeks are settling in and getting into a rhythm. They're kind of good because on the one hand, you don't really have anything due and you're kind of just showing up to class doing all those really awkward icebreakers that you'll get to enjoy when you do start next week. They can also be a lot of info overload as well. If you're doing a full-time study load where you have 4 topics, for example, you're going to next week get a whole lot of information at once. From your topic coordinators and your lecturers about, your weekly readings, your due dates, the expectations they have of you for the topic. And, I remember that being a very kind of like, my brain just felt very full of information. So be prepared for that. And then just take the time to process the information and enjoy also the fact that that first week is very other than that, it's fairly cruisy.
Someone with their hand up a few times. So
Oh, okay, yeah.
ask a question.
Yeah, I might be mispronouncing this, but Xiaoran, did you want to ask a question? You can either type it in the chat, or if you want to put your mic on, feel free to do that. I'll keep chatting until something cool.
Cool. All right.
Awesome. And then, so weeks 10 to 14 is when everything feels like it's due at once, because to be honest, it probably is all due at once. Whether you have exams or major assessments, those final weeks of semester can feel like you're in a really hard crunch time. Of course, that means that you might end up feeling like the dog in the meme, where everything appears to be on fire and you're kind of like, how the hell am I going to do this now? You might even look at your calendar if you keep a calendar, which I would recommend, and see that you have, 3 assignments due, 1 day apart. And while that calendar looks quite bare, that's not factoring in, your contact hours at uni, your work schedule, your kind of exercise schedule, your social life, all of those things. So assuming, for example, that each of those essays or critical reflections are about 2,000 words, you could get to that week and be quite stressed. So we need to think about how we manage this workload effectively. And like I just said, the first step is probably to have a diary or a calendar for the week-to-week view. So previously you were able to get a free diary from Fuster, and I don't know if they're doing that this year, but any diary will do. Or your phone calendar, that's what I tend to use. And you have that week-to-week view, so you can see what you've got coming up in a weekly way. And then you'll also notice around campus semester planners. So those are those big A3 sheets that have the entire semester on one page, showing you when the mid-semester breaks are, when public holidays are, all that sort of stuff. And that can be really good to get the bigger picture, the long view of the semester and when your assignments are going to cluster. And then, of course, the last 2 things that are going to be really useful to you, which you will probably get next week, are your topic handbook, which will be on Flow probably already, and your statement of assessment methods. And your topic coordinator or your lecturer or tutor will run through these next week with you. But these will outline your weekly schedule, so when your classes are. They will outline what you're required to do each week in terms of reading or tasks. Maybe you have to post on Flow every week. They will list your assessment due dates, which is really good. We need to know that, and the weighting of each task. So each assessment that you complete is worth a percentage of your total grade. Usually your major assessments will be something like 30 or 35% of your total grade, and you might have some smaller pieces of assessment earlier on for 5 or 10%. So the due dates and the weighting of your assignments are important because they help you determine how far back in time you need to start working on them. And the weighting of each assignment helps you determine how much effort and time you need to put into it. So, obviously you're probably going to put more effort into a major essay that's worth 30% than you will a Flow post that is worth only 5%. So from there you can map your semester with when you plan to start work on each assignment, and you can work towards completing them in this way, in a way where it doesn't feel like you're rushed or pressed for time. I imagine if you're like me, that you'll have if you decide to do this, you'll have a really good plan, and maybe you can't stick to it exactly because life gets in the way, or because, some days you just don't have the mental capacity to do what you need to do. And that's fine, but having it put in place from day one really helps kind of keep you closer on track than you might otherwise be. So it's a really good thing to get into the practice of doing. And if you want advice on how to approach this, if this is not your strong suit, then you can always come to our Learning Lounge. So we are based on level 2 of the Central Library at the Bedford Park campus. And we have learning advisors in our Learning Lounge from next week from 10:30 to 12, and then from 12 to 2:30. And you can just drop in any time between those hours and sit down with someone, and they can help you kind of look at your topics and kind of think about some time management strategies if you want. One thing that I would say, which I have learned from experience and continue to relearn all the time, is that things take longer than you think they will, especially the reading and researching part of an assignment. So You might think, oh, I've only got 2 readings this week. I'll just do them the night before class. And then you open them up and you realize that they are 18 pages of, quite dense academic prose. So just be aware that things usually take longer than you think they will. If they don't, that's great. That's really awesome. But it's always helpful to just kind of keep that in mind so that you're not surprised right before your class or before a due date. So once you've got your topic handbooks and you've mapped out, when your assignments are due, what your semester is going to look like, it's time to kind of zoom into that weekly view and think about managing your week-to-week study schedule. So it can be easy to look at your weekly timetable on Compass or wherever it is that you're keeping track of when your classes are, and see a lot of free space and get the sense that, oh, I'm actually going to have a lot of free time. I only have to be at uni on like Mondays and Wednesdays for 2 hours. Unless you're, again, in something like nursing, in which case you have very heavy contact hours. But your uni timetable can be a bit misleading because that is just the contact hours. That's just when your classes are. But you need to factor in around that, you might have, say, 2 to 8 hours of contact time, and then you're meant to dedicate, say, another 10 hours of independent study to that topic per week. So thinking about how we can use our time effectively and set aside time for that while also still making time for friends and family and for work and everything else that you guys have got going on is really important. So how much time do we need to set aside? This is really a personal question. It kind of depends on the type of student that you are, how motivated you are, what kind of study habits you have, what you're learning, the kind of material that you're encountering, and what stage of your degree that you're in. One thing to bear in mind, I guess, generally is that we are not humans, that is, are not very good at concentrating for long periods of time. So science has told us that we work best in short bursts. So, having study sessions of around 1 to 2 hours is really effective, more effective than, say, cramming for 6 hours nonstop. If we push beyond the 2-hour mark, it tends to have diminishing returns and we sort of stop concentrating. So when you have your weekly planner, like I said, most topic contact hours range from 2 to 8 hours, but you're expected to dedicate independent study time to each topic so that you can complete what you need to do. And that includes readings, that includes posting on Flow, whatever it is that your weekly tasks are. So you want to start by outlining your contact hours when you need to be in class, whether that's face-to-face or online. You also need to account for time spent doing life things. So, traveling to and from places, eating, socializing, sports, work will probably be a big one for a lot of you, and then family commitments. So you need to be realistic and factor in things like travel time. For example, when I was doing my degree here, it took me about 45 minutes to get to campus each day, to and from campus. So that was an hour and a half automatically that I didn't have for study. So, make sure that you are thinking about that stuff when you're thinking about your weekly schedule. And then when you have free time, it's really good to block out 1 to 2 hour study sessions where you can, so that you have that kind of structure to your study flow and you have a clear sense of what your day looks like. The main thing is to find a schedule that works for you, and that takes into account all the extra commitments that you have, including spontaneous surprises, whether they be good or bad. Also, the fact that from week to week your workload might look a little different. Weeks 1 to 3, for example, as I've said, it might be a bit lighter. You might get to the mid-semester break and find that you're having to devote more time to study. So just be prepared to be kind of flexible with that. It's okay if you can always make a new plan. So, oh my God, I can just suddenly hear myself. So 1 to 2 hour study sessions followed by short breaks. Think about when you work best, what sort of structure will work for you optimally. So we all work differently and have different life situations and needs we have to adapt to. So the main thing is to kind of figure out what works for you. In my case, I'm someone who tends to usually work better in the morning. My brain tends to be better, although this session may not be evidence of that. I'll leave that to you to judge. So I tend to do my work in the mornings, and then in the afternoons, I feel like my mental energy is just sapped. And that's when I use the afternoons for kind of lower stakes tasks, like answering emails, or if I was still studying, I would use that time for reading or something like that. So think about when you work best, when you want to build in those study sessions to your timetable. And when you've finished a study session, make sure that you take a good break, 20 to 30 minutes. If you are someone who finds it hard to get motivated or to focus, or you're a procrastinator, go into your study sessions with a really clear plan of what you want to achieve. For example, you might say, okay, in this next study session for the next hour, my goal is to read 2 articles, or to create an essay outline for that assignment that's due in a few weeks. Don't be put off if it feels a bit forced and uncomfortable to start with, because everything is uncomfortable when we do it for the first time. But just see what works. You know, you can always adjust, and that's the main thing. So now let's talk about assignments on an individual level. So you've planned your semester, you've mapped out your week. Now you've got to think about, okay, how do I actually tackle the assignments that I've got due? So at first glance, assignments can seem quite overwhelming because there's a lot to think about. You're kind of told, okay, just answer this essay question, you know, write 2,500 words, use references, and you're just kind of like, I don't really know where to start. I barely know how I want to answer that question. So there's a lot to think about, you know, what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, what research you might need to do, how you want to structure your ideas, not to mention just understanding the content that you're working with. So it's not surprising if you sit down and your mind goes blank and you kind of feel really like, I don't want to do this. This is too hard. That's when I would suggest using a strategy called chunking, which I'm going to talk about today. And it's a technique that breaks tasks down into smaller, more manageable chunks, which is where the name comes from. So when combined with a well-planned study schedule and a map to completing your assignments, chunking can really help you get your head around everything you need to do. So chunking is a time management and organization process that breaks projects into small and easily achievable tasks. I'm someone who, you know, if I take a task on its own, in entirety, it's overwhelming. I find it really hard to start. I'll usually put it off for a few weeks until the anxiety is so bad that I have to start it, which is always a fun little cycle to get into. But chunking is something that I use and that I would recommend you use, because it really does kind of break things down into much more like digestible little bits. So, for example, you know, if I had an assignment that was due, say an essay, because my background is creative writing, so I'm used to kind of the essay format. I would start by dedicating half an hour just to sit down and think about the assignment. You know, okay, so there's no like massive amount of work that I've got to do immediately. All I have to do is sit down for half an hour, just read the question, make sure I feel like I understand it, and make a plan for what I'll do in the next chunked session. You know, that means that instead of having to produce an essay in one go, you're really actually thinking about, okay, what is the question that I've been asked to do? What am I going to have to do next? You know, how much research am I going to have to do? What are the components of this assignment that I'm going to have to work through? This includes setting time aside for reading, which you will get a lot of reading to do at uni. It does take a lot of time. It can also be possibly the more frustrating part of uni, because it's one of those processes that you have to do. Never really feels like you're achieving anything in that moment. You know, you are just reading, you're not writing anything. Maybe it's hard to even understand what you're reading. It can be quite a frustrating part of the process. But I would like to reassure you that the research and reading part of any assignment is the longest part. It is also the most frustrating part if you feel like you're not achieving anything, but you are. Um, Everything that you're reading is going into your brain so that when you sit down to write, it is actually a much faster and easier process than if you just sat down to write without doing that prior research. So just be patient with that aspect of assignments, because it is totally normal, but it's also it is all contributing to getting your assignment done. So turning it into chunks means that each time I sit down to do something, it feels manageable. So, for example, so my background is creative writing. If I want to write anything, that blank page can be quite daunting, and you might have that same anxiety when it comes to any of your assignments. So there have been times where I've literally just said, okay, if I dedicate half an hour to staring at the screen, doesn't matter what I write, doesn't matter if it's shit, doesn't matter if it's like 5 words, I will have achieved, the thing that I will have achieved is sitting down for that half hour. So it's kind of, chunking is a way to get over that initial hurdle to get you actually started on your assignment, because I guarantee that once you do make a start, it feels much less stressful and you actually kind of find it easier to kind of go back to it later rather than just continually putting it off. So as I was talking about before, it's also really helpful to think about your work rhythm. This can take a while. If you're not already aware of what that optimal work rhythm is, this can take a while to work out. So I recommend just trying a bunch of different things. But once you do know the ways that you best work, it becomes really awesome to be able to use that to your advantage. So that includes knowing when you work best, whether it's at mornings or at nights or in the afternoons. It includes knowing the cycles, the mental cycles that you'll go through with your work. So for me, it's sort of like I'll start something or I won't start something and I'll feel like stressed about it. Then I'll get so stressed that I'll actually start it. And then the reading will take forever and I'll get really frustrated. And then I'll get excited about what I'm reading because it starts to make sense to me and I'll feel like, oh, I know what I'm going to talk about now. And then I move to the writing and I go through that whole anxiety spiral again. I'm not recommending this is the healthy way to do things, but I think it's just being aware of the way that your mind works, and the way that you will go through these cycles, because once you know that it is a cycle or that it is just a part of the process, you also know that it ends. So you might feel anxious about that blank page, but you also know that you'll move on to the next stage and you'll start writing. So you never need to be paralyzed by that kind of sense of, I don't really know what I'm doing, because you do move on. And then I do recommend, when you know that you're not going to be very productive, do low stakes tasks. That can be doing your referencing, which is a very kind of mechanical, rote, somewhat boring task, but it's easy because it doesn't require a lot of cognitive thinking. It can be replying to emails. It can be planning what you're going to do in your next study session. Anything that helps you be productive without kind of being too demanding at that time. So the last thing that I'll run through a few of our support services in a sec, because it's important that you guys know that there is a lot of support here for you, because uni can sometimes feel a bit isolating, especially if you're learning online and off campus. But first, we'll just talk a bit about what uni is actually like. And I don't really know, what kind of experiences you've had with uni. So feel free to, again, put them in the chat if you want to share your experience or to share your own, study tips that you have. I can only really offer you what my experience of Flinders has been, and that's not going to be the same for everyone, but hopefully it kind of reassures you that everyone has their own particular journey through this space. So whatever you're doing, it's probably fine. I did my undergrad here, I then did my honours degree here, and then my PhD here, and now I work here. So Flinders has not been able to get rid of me. But, when I was an undergrad, my experience of uni was that it was very transient. I would show up to class, I wouldn't really talk to people, and then I would go home and study or procrastinate, as it were. And, sometimes I felt really like, oh, am I making enough of the uni environment? Am I going to make friends here? Do I know what I'm doing? It took me 2.5 years to actually make friends with the people that were in my topics. And now they're some of my closest friends. So just be really patient with your experience of uni. If it feels a certain way, that's fine. If you feel like you're not really sure if you're fitting in or if you're doing everything you need to do, or maybe the social stuff comes really easily to you, but your studies, on the other hand, are something that you want to avoid. It's all normal and you belong here and you're welcome here, and just kind of like see what happens. Like, this is a really exciting time for you. Hopefully you're going to be really excited about what you're studying, and you're going to meet a lot of cool people. There's going to be a lot of frustration too, but that's all part of growing. So yeah, I think just kind of see how you go and know that there is a lot of support here available for you if you do need it. So with that in mind, so we are the Student Learning Support Service. If you've attended some of the other orientation sessions, you may have seen this slide before. These are the main services that are available to you throughout your journey at Flinders. So the main things I think that you'll probably be interested in are, so our Learning Lounge. Like I said, that's a drop-in guided study session. You don't need an appointment. From next week, anytime between 10:30 to 2:30, you can just come and chat to one of our learning advisors if you're not really sure what, say, your assignment question is about, if you feel like you want some help kind of managing your time, if you don't know if you're referencing correctly, our advisors can help with that. Studiosity is also available for the same reason. This is a 24/7 online service, so if you can't come into campus during those opening hours, Studiosity is a great service that's free to you. You can go on, you can get live chat support. You can submit 1,500 words of your writing, whether it's a draft assignment, and get feedback on it. And the benefit, particularly if you are studying online, or if you're a night owl, is that it is 24/7, so you can access that anytime. However, just be aware that you only get 10 interactions per semester with Studiosity, so I would be quite strategic about when you use those. If you just have a quick question, maybe try and think of all the questions you want to ask at once and use them all in that interaction so you can make the most of it. And then we have EndNote workshops, which, if you haven't heard of EndNote, you probably will at some stage in your degree. It's a software that is used to help you with referencing. It's more commonly used by postgrads, but you might start using it in your undergrad degree. There's a bit of a learning curve with the technology, but once you do get onto it, it does make referencing a much faster process. So if you decide to use EndNote, we do have support for that here. We have workshops that are, let me check, they are starting from week 3. They will run on Tuesdays from 1 to 2 p.m. and then Wednesdays from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And they are available both face-to-face here in the library or online via Teams as well. So you can find all that information on our Flow site as well. And then you may also find that in your Flow topics, you'll see the learning toolkit, for example. That's something that we've developed here in the SLSS, and it's basically a way for you to explore all the different parts of doing an assignment. So if you come to writing an essay and you have no idea what that even looks like at uni, then you can go to the learning toolkit, and you can look at how you prepare, how you write an essay. We've got templates for that. And then how you reference and all of that stuff. We've got all those study guides. So you can also access that directly from our Flow page as well, if it's not on your topic Flow page. So yeah, I think now I'll open it up to questions. I guess the main thing I want to say is just remember that the SLSS is here for you guys. I mean, along with, health and counselling, FUSA, OASIS, all these support services at Flinders, they are here to help you. Just ask for it and we will help make this transition as easy as possible. If you have any questions.
I have a couple of questions just more generally about referencing and people being a bit unsure about what referencing styles you use and how that all works.
Yeah.
So obviously we can support them with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of referencing, probably, you're going to hear a lot about academic integrity when you start at Flinders. It's a big part of our values here. So referencing correctly is an important part of your studies. It basically just means that you are giving credit to people who have done research and whose ideas that you're using. There are a range of referencing styles at Flinders and around the world. The most common ones here are going to be APA 7, Harvard referencing probably, and MLA if you're in the humanities, but you might also be using Vancouver or Chicago or whatever style. Don't let that scare you. Just check with your topic coordinator which referencing style they want you to use in your assignments. That will probably be explained in the topic handbook, but if not, just ask your tutor. If they don't have a preferred referencing style, then you get to pick. Just make sure you're consistent and you're referencing correctly. And when it comes to referencing, you need to check out the style guide. So we do have on our flow page a bunch of guides for APA and MLA and all those sorts of things, which will give you templates. So if you're referencing a book, it'll show you how to reference that, and so on and so forth, journal articles and all of that. However, if the process of referencing is still kind of mysterious or frustrating, then that's when I would suggest coming to the Learning Lounge and chatting to an advisor, because they will sit down with you and they will explain, exactly how you do it. And they will also check your reference list for you and make sure that it's formatted correctly. So yeah, don't be daunted by referencing, but I would say that if it is your first time doing it, or if you don't feel confident with it, then do come and chat to us, because that way we can get it sorted pretty early on in your studies.
Cool. I think, so maybe, yeah, I'm not sure if people can hear me, but yeah, maybe if anyone has any questions in the chat that I've missed, pop them in again. There's a few questions. Actually, there's one question about if someone misses a lecture.
Oh, yeah.
Like, do you have to watch the lectures live online, or
yeah, so
can you watch it later?
Yeah, so normally, your topic handbook will probably contain that information. The general way that it works is if you miss a tutorial, or if you miss more than 2 tutorials, then you'll probably need a medical certificate or some kind of, you'll need to let your tutor know why it is that you've missed them and kind of just get them to sign off on that. If you miss a lecture and it's recorded online, then you just need to watch it at some other time before the next class. So don't be too scared if something comes up and you can't make class. Generally, people are pretty good about that, but that is on a topic by topic basis. So it's best just to check with your tutor and the respectful thing to do also is that if you do have advance notice that you can't make a tutorial or a workshop or a seminar or a lecture, just kind of let your tutor know so that they can kind of plan their lesson accordingly.
Somebody's asking about textbooks, so I'm just going to put a link to that in just what they do about textbooks.
Yeah, so again, that will be on your topic flow page. A lot of the readings will probably be electronic now, given that that's just the way things are heading. So there should be a reading section on your topic page that will link you to the readings that you have to do. Obviously, the library has physical copies of a lot of books. Some of them will be short-term loans that you can only take out for 2 hours at a time. And then sometimes you'll be using ebooks. Be aware that sometimes there are limits on how many people can access the ebook at one time. So the main advice I would say is just check the flow page, check the topic handbook, and that will give you a good indication of what you need to do. I think it's probably unusual nowadays that you have to buy textbooks. Maybe in some topics you will, but yeah, a lot of it will be available online to you.
Cool. Just keep note of it. So, not sure if you covered this, but where can we learn about EndNote if we can't attend either of those sessions?
Okay. So if you search for the EndNote website, they have a bunch of training guides and sort of FAQs. So if you can't make a workshop, then there is actually a lot of information available from the company online. And I think that there are also workshops that you can register for through the iEnroll Flinders page. Okay, so my main suggestion would be try and go online and look at the EndNote Clarivate website and see if your question is answered there. And if not, just email us if you can't make a workshop, and I don't know, maybe we can try and sort something out. So yeah.
Cool. Just looking at all these chats. So somebody's asking, of all the support systems, so SLSS or FUSA, what is the difference? Do they have different purposes?
They do. Actually, you help with this as well.
Yes,
so,
okay, yeah.
I mean, SLSS, we're really here for your academic learning support. FUSA is more for student welfare, is that right? So
yeah, so FUSA run a lot of events on campus. If you have any issues with, so they run student advocacy services as well. So if you were to get a grade, for example, that you didn't agree with, and you spoke to your tutor about it, and there's different processes that you can sort of appeal that if needed. So obviously that's not that common, but it's there. Student welfare services, student financial advocacy. So FUSA, that is, run a lot of, if you're in financial hardship, you can talk to them. They do have things like short-term interest-free loans and maybe some food vouchers and that if you can demonstrate financial hardship, you can get some help there, but also just information about financial welfare. They run all the clubs and associations, so a few people are asking about clubs. So if you Google FUSA Flinders or look up their Instagram or Facebook pages, there's heaps of information about how you can meet other students, get involved in that. So that's what they're really there for, just anything if you're sort of struggling as a student, and it is more that, welfare and advocacy side of things. In the Student Learning Support Service, we are here to specifically support you in, development of academic skills. So whether you're struggling or whether you just want to go from a distinction to a high distinction, we can help you with that. So Grace has sort of run through all the resources that we have. So you can see us on campus in the Learning Lounge or online via Studiosity, or just engage with any of our workshops like EndNote or any of our online resources. So really just here to help you with that. Yeah, and then there's also careers and employability, which is pretty self-explanatory. They're there to help kind of with your professional development. If you want to develop, resume or look at ways of approaching job interviews and things like that. Health and counselling is there because that provides free confidential counselling to you if you are struggling and you want to chat to someone. There is also a GP on campus that you can make appointments with and book in to see. So that's health and counselling. Oasis, which is based up in the humanities section. I don't know why I'm pointing behind me because you're not in the room, but it's nearby. And Oasis is a great community hub for meditation. There are prayer rooms if you want to. There's a community market where you can exchange produce. So they're really there to help with your well-being as well. And then Flinders Connect is really where you do a lot of the administrative side of things. So if you need to get your student ID card, if you need to pick up eventually your graduation certificate, if you need to, I think probably even organise something like parking, I want to say, something like that. They can answer those questions.
Yeah, so Flinders Connect is like a good centralised support service where if you do have a generic question, you're not really sure where to go, that would be a first point of call as well.
Somebody's asking about, for online students who can't use the Learning Lounge, is it only Studiosity or can they contact their tutor?
Oh yeah, you can definitely contact your tutor. Sometimes, depending on the tutor, depending on their workload, they may not be able to reply very quickly, or they may not have contact hours necessarily. So just kind of check in and see what their preference is for communicating. But yeah, Studiosity is a great resource. And yeah, I would always say if you have a really specific question to your topic, email your tutor or the topic coordinator and get advice from them.
And someone's asking what the Horizon Award is. So we've seen the option to enrol, but no information about what it actually is. So the careers team will be able to provide more information about that. But I think in a nutshell, it's a professional development program. So you do different activities that are all sort of listed on the web page, or you can inquire about that, and you get certain points for each activity. So just say you attended a workshop or something, and that gives you a certain amount of points. I'm not familiar in detail with the system, but then there's different levels of awards. So you might get a point, for example, for attending a workshop, and then it goes towards the award. And there's, I'm pretty sure, like gold, silver, bronze, platinum levels of the Horizon Award. So obviously if you get up to platinum, that's your sort of top level of the award, and it shows that you've been really engaged in professional development. And that award is recognised by employers as well. So it's got a bit of traction out there in industry, and so it just shows that you're a proactive student and that you sort of taken your professional development really seriously here. And it's kind of one of those things, I guess there's no pressure to sort of get to any level. It's an extracurricular thing. So yeah, I would definitely check that out. I'll pop a link in the chat for that. So sorry I couldn't provide super detailed information because it's not in my team. But yeah, it is something good if you're looking to obviously advance your career and get a head start on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some chat's going off there. So somebody's asking, sorry, if you can answer this or I'll answer. Is there a specific process for becoming a topic rep or a topic mentor?
Oh, that's a really good question. Do you know the answer?
Yeah, I think yeah. So I think that's a FUSA thing. So I will also pop a link to reps in there, and best to reach out to FUSA on how you can get involved in student representation. So let me do that now. So yeah, there's information here on this page about which is a great idea because anything you can do to advance your professional development is great.
It's also just a really good way to get involved in the university and kind of meet people as well.
So someone's asking, on most days I have several classes in a row, so one starts just as one finishes. Do classes finish a little early or start a little late to give people time to move around? Yeah, so most classes, they only run for, they'll end 10 minutes before the hour. So if it's a tutorial, it might only be 50 minutes. If it's a lecture or a seminar that runs for like 2 hours, it's usually finishes, 10 minutes before the hour. So that gives you enough time to get to your other class. If you are going from, say, Bedford campus to Sturt, which was my situation one year, you might be a little late, but honestly, if you just explain to your topic coordinator that you're coming from another class, they'll be fine with it. Thanks for all the questions, guys. We're trying to madly keep up here. Oh, this is a very important question, Karen. Can coffee be taken into the lecture or tutorial rooms?
Yes, it can, which is the best. And there's so many coffee options. Yes, no, coffee is important. You can definitely do that.
And food, can you take food in?
I mean, I think so. I think if it's a really disruptive food, you might be told to leave it, but as far as I know, there's no rules about that.
Maybe don't heat up fish and then take it, but anything else should be fine. I think that's a good thing about the university environment. I guess it is an adult learning environment, so not like a school where you might be told off for bringing coffee into a classroom.
Exactly, it's a much more independent space, which is nice.
Yeah. So we've got a question about signing into Library Finder. You're not able to open it from Optus. So unfortunately, I think that might be a bit of a tech issue. So I might just pop you might have to log something through Ask Flinders. So I'll just pop the link in here. Sorry, I can't solve that one. Are all students entitled to a student ID card? If so,
yes.
Where can you get one?
Yes, you are. In fact, you'll need a student ID card to access a lot of things. If you need to access like a computer lab, or if you need to borrow a library book, you'll need that. I believe that because of COVID, you are applying for your ID online and then it's getting mailed out. But Flinders Connect is usually the place that everyone goes to pick up or to process ID cards as well. So if you are on campus, maybe just pop in and have a chat with someone there. Otherwise, you should be able to go to your Opta dashboard and I think apply or take a photo online and then get the ID card processed there as well.
Cool. How long does it take for the ID card to be mailed?
It's a really good question.
Not sure. That's probably on
Australia Post.
But yeah, if you are on campus, you may be able to pick it up just from Flinders Connect. It's a bit quicker. When I enrolled, I chose all online instead of on campus. So does this mean I won't need to go into campus?
If your classes, if your lectures and your tutorials are all online, then yeah, unless you need to come on campus for, to use the library or to use any other service, then no, probably not. You don't need to be on campus.
Sorry, keeping up with this. Also, a few people are saying, yeah, the ID card took a week to come in. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, guys.
Oh, so Karen is asking if there's an IT department that you can physically take your advice to for help, or is it all online? Yeah, you can go into Flinders Connect and they have a IT support desk there. So I'm just about to pop that in, the link to Flinders Connect, in the chat for another student. So on the bottom of that page, I believe, is details about when IT are there. So hopefully you guys can hear me okay, but I'll, so there's a link
to Flinders Connect for all your, yeah.
Yeah. So
I would say that's your first point of call for a lot of things, probably.
Yeah. Somebody's asking about a tour they can take about using library services.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I'm sorry, I don't know if there is a specific library tour this year.
Normally there would be, but yeah, because everything's
campus
online.
tours that will take you to the library.
Yeah.
And the library staff are really friendly, so you can ask questions of them when you're here as well.
Yeah, so even if you just come into the library and you go to the information desk, you can ask for some advice on how to access things.
Yeah. Oh, somebody's asking, what is the etiquette for taking phone calls during workshops or tutorials? So if you have to take an urgent call, for example.
Yeah, I think if it's just, I think generally, as long as it's not an urgent call, it's probably just best to have your phone on and to deal with it after class. But if you are waiting to hear from someone or it's an emergency, just, pop your hand up, excuse yourself, take it outside and deal with the call and then come back in. You can definitely do that.
Yeah. And someone's asking about booking study rooms. So let me pop a link.
Yeah, you can do that online and you can book a study room. There are lots of great study spaces in the library with smart boards and with computer facilities, or just even if you just need the room to kind of have some privacy to chat for those fun group projects that you might be doing as well. If you just want to do independent study, you don't really need to book anywhere. There are lots of desks on all levels of the library in quiet zones, so you can just kind of go along, find an empty one and set up shop there if you want.
Yeah, so someone's asking, do you have to enroll only in semester 1 or do you need to enroll in semester 2 as well? For now, you only need to enroll in semester 1. We would obviously recommend enrolling for the full year if you can, because so you get the classes you want. But the last day to enrol for semester 2 is not until week 2, semester 2. So
plenty of time.
You do have plenty of time. The only issue would be if the classes fill up, classes that you need to do and things like that. So the good thing is that you can, if you enrol now and then change your mind about the classes you want to do or anything, you can unenroll before. So you can unenroll in those topics before the census date and you won't be charged. So if you do it now, change your mind, then yeah, that is all okay. Just got to remember to unenroll out of them. So on the student planner and stuff, there are, you can see when the last day to enrol is, but yeah, it's usually the last day of like the Friday of week 2. But I'll see if I can pop a link in the chat to the enrolment dates as well. Just check here. Those are great questions, guys. Yeah. Oh, a few more questions. Does the education building have study areas? Yeah, it does.
I think, yeah.
Not sure if they're bookable.
Yeah, I don't know if they're bookable, but every kind of, well, actually, that's a really good question because.
Yeah, sorry about that. We don't 100% know that. So somebody's asking if you have to book every time you want to use study areas. You can't just walk in. If they're a bookable study area, then yes, you could just walk in. But then if someone books it, then
you might get kicked out.
But there are loads of study areas across campus that aren't bookable. So like there's heaps around FUSA.
In the hub, there's a lot of, and it depends. If you're looking for a quiet place, you might want to book something, but if you just want to find a place to kind of sit and do your work, then just go anywhere really, essentially. Like there's a lot of tables and chairs around the hub. In the library, there's a lot of social spaces and a lot of desks as well, so yeah.
There are a few specific questions around enrolment, and I don't, given this isn't 100% area of expertise in the SLSS, I don't want to give anyone the wrong information. So in terms of part-time enrolment and the topics that you need to do in the first year and things like that, I would really recommend contacting Flinders Connect for those questions, because what I wouldn't want to see happen is that we give you wrong information by accident and end up pushing out your degree because you haven't done the core topics in the right order. So there are study plan documents that are available for each course generally that show you sort of the flow you should enrol in. But yeah, Flinders Connect can give you all that information. You can log, I'll pop the link in the chat again. So you can either log an inquiry online, or you can call up, or you can actually just go in. They're on campus here at Bedford Park. So yeah, I think that's probably the best way, just to make sure you get absolute 100% accurate information here. Oh, and so somebody's saying the main library has a traffic light system for noise levels. So yeah, that's really good. You can see, you know, the areas that you need to be absolutely quiet in, and areas where you can have a, you know, maybe a group study chat or something. So is there a place to find upcoming professional development or classes like this?
Yeah, I think so. That would be iEnroll. So
Career Hub.
Yeah. Oh, maybe.
Career Hub's probably, so on Okta, so you guys have access to Okta or the homepage of the student website. There is a Career Hub icon. So I'll pop the link to actual Career Hub in the chat.
That's also where you can find job listings. So if you're looking for some casual work while you're studying or things like that, some graduate jobs are also advertised there. So it's a good site to go to for any kind of professional development query.
Yeah, so you need to log in to access Career Hub just with your Flinders login. So if you're already logged in, that link should just take you straight to the site. And yeah, like Grace said, there's lots of opportunities there. I believe you can also sign up to the careers newsletter, or you may automatically be signed up as a commencing student. So keep an eye on those emails. I know it feels like you get a lot of emails as a student, and you probably do. The university is working on that to try and streamline it. But yeah, it's a really good to just keep your eye on it. There's also the student newsletter, which will start next week.
That's Ping.
It's called Ping. Yep. And so Ping's a good, you know, just give it a skim read each week. There's usually competitions in there. There's information about careers, events on campus or off campus. And so that's trying to consolidate all the information you need to know as a student into the one email, so you don't receive too many. So a student is asking, can we schedule Zoom meetings with lecturers if they're an online student and need extra help? So I'm guessing that's down to your...
That will be down to your lecturer. I mean, it's always good to ask. They may not have capacity to do that on a regular basis, but certainly just email me. And if you have a query, ask an email, and also just say, like, if you do feel like you need some extra chat time with them or something, they might be able to help you out there. So I guess the rule is, or like, while I can't give you a definite answer, then just always ask, because you never know what's available to you.
There we go. Can someone who is not enrolled in the same college as you accompany you on your tour? Yeah, if you're talking about campus tours, yeah, I'd say so. I'd say everyone can sort of go along. So that should be fine.
Yeah, definitely.
Very welcoming here at Flinders. So yeah. It's good, you know, it's good when people bring others along to orientation to kind of as a, you know, sometimes it can be daunting when you don't know anyone to come here on your own. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's not college. I don't think those tours are college specific either. So I think it's just a general kind of like, this is where everything is on campus. So it should be applicable to everyone.
Cool. I think we may have covered all the questions, but if anyone has any other questions, our email address is on that slide that you can see now. Also, I'll be emailing everyone later today who registered for this session, just with a link to the recording once it's online, just so in case you want to go back and have a look, and the PowerPoint slides. So yes, I will do that. So if you do have questions, then you'll have our email there too that you can just respond and say, ask away. So, just one last question maybe. What sort of stuff do we have to bring to lectures?
Oh, I think it depends. So, I mean, if you've got a laptop, you might find it easier to take notes on a laptop, or just a notepad and pen. If you are going to a tutorial, you might want to bring in either on a laptop or in print your readings that you're going to be talking about that week. But yeah, basically just anything that you can take notes with. And
Awesome.
coffee if you want it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Yeah, if you do have any more questions, just email them through. But yeah, good luck with your studies. Welcome, and hope to see you on campus face to face sometime. Yeah. See you around.
Thanks, everyone.